For the safety and protection of this courageous individual, we have chosen to keep certain identifying details and location information confidential. The threats against their well-being are real and serious. This is one of those testimonies that shakes people's beliefs and makes you question everything you thought you knew. Beloved, look closely at every moment of this powerful testimony and witness how the transforming power of Jesus breaks down false beliefs and brings freedom we all seek in the end. I was born in the old city of Sana'a, Yemen, where the call to prayer filled every street and the sound of worship echoed from the rooftops at sunrise. My father was a respected scholar of Islam, and from my early years, he taught me the sacred words of the Quran with discipline and devotion. Our home was known for its silence, its seriousness, and its constant study of faith. I was the eldest son, so expectations rested heavily on my shoulders. From the time I was 10, people called me the future teacher, and by 16, I had memorized large portions of the Quran. I truly believed that understanding more would bring me closer to peace. But as the years went by, I found my mind filled with knowledge, while my heart remained empty. I could explain the laws, the history, and the verses, but inside me was a space that learning could not fill. I began to ask questions that made others uncomfortable. If God is love, I would wonder, why do I feel so far from Him? My teachers told me to stop thinking too deeply. They said faith was about obedience, not about emotion. But at night, when I lay on my bed looking up at the dark ceiling, I felt something missing, a quiet hunger that refused to sleep. There were moments when I stood in the mosque and felt as if I was talking to the wind. I followed every rule, fasted, prayed, and gave to the poor, but I never felt God's presence. I started reading about other faiths secretly. It was dangerous to do that where I lived, but my heart was restless. I thought maybe I could understand God through study, through logic, through reason. Yet the more I read, the more confused I became. One afternoon, while teaching a group of young boys in the mosque, I found myself unable to continue. My voice broke as I recited a verse about mercy, and I realized I had never truly felt it. That night I prayed and said, God, whoever you truly are, show me the truth. I don't care if it costs me everything. I didn't know then that this simple prayer would begin a journey that would turn my life upside down. It was a quiet evening in the small town where I had gone to visit my cousin, who worked at a hospital. The air smelled of dust and rain, and the streets were filled with children playing barefoot, chasing one another through the narrow paths. I had gone out to clear my head after a long day of teaching, still troubled by the emptiness that followed me like a shadow. As I walked past a group of children near the corner of a small Christian center, I noticed a tiny girl sitting apart from the others. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. She was drawing something on the sand with a small stick, humming softly. Her face glowed with innocence, and there was peace in her eyes that made me stop for a reason I could not explain. When she looked up at me, she smiled, not out of politeness, but with a warmth that felt strangely alive. I asked her what she was drawing. She told me she was drawing her best friend, and she pointed at the cross she had drawn in the sand. I didn't understand what she meant, and I almost turned to leave. But something made me stay. Her voice was gentle but full of certainty. She spoke of her friend as though he was someone she knew personally, someone who visited her heart. I tried to hide my curiosity, but she noticed. She said that her friend loves everyone, even those who don't know him yet. I felt a strange stirring inside me, like a wound being touched softly. I asked her who this friend was, and she answered simply, "He helps me when I'm scared." For some reason, her words troubled me more than they should have. I left that place uneasy, unable to forget her calm face. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing her eyes, filled with a light that didn't belong to this world. It was the first time I had seen such peace in someone so young. My mind fought it, trying to explain it away, but my heart whispered that I had just seen something pure. A few days later, I passed that same road again, but she wasn't there. Something inside me felt disappointed, like I had missed a message meant for me. I thought about visiting the Christian center, but fear held me back. In my country, curiosity toward Christians could bring suspicion or worse. Yet from that day onward, something began to change in me. The emptiness that had always been cold and silent now began to ache, as though longing for something I had not yet met. That night, after many hours of turning restlessly on my bed, sleep finally came to me, but it was not the kind that brings peace. It was heavy, filled with strange visions that seemed more real than dreams. I found myself standing in a vast desert. The wind was strong, and the sky above me was full of clouds, dark and restless. I began to walk, calling out, but there was no answer. I walked for what felt like hours, until I saw a light far ahead, soft, golden, and still. As I moved closer, I saw a figure standing in the glow, though I could not see his face. My heart began to race. The desert grew quiet. It was then that I felt a deep voice inside my spirit, not speaking in words, but in knowing. He revealed to me that I had been searching for truth in scrolls and words, while the truth itself had been reaching out to me in love. I felt overwhelmed, unable to move, as if every sin and pride I had ever carried stood before that light. I tried to ask who he was, but before I could, I saw again the little girl's face from the street. She stood near the light, smiling gently, holding out her small hands as if inviting me to come closer. Her presence reminded me of innocence, of something clean and beautiful that I had lost long ago. I wanted to step forward, but I was afraid. I felt unworthy, dirty, and broken. Then, in a moment, the fear was replaced with a warmth that wrapped around me like a blanket. He let me know that I was not alone, that the peace I had been searching for was not in religion, but in a living relationship with the one who loved me first. When I woke up, my pillow was wet with tears. I sat on my bed, shaking. My room was dark, yet something in my heart felt bright. I didn't understand what had happened, but I knew I could not ignore it. I felt as if heaven itself had reached down to touch my restless soul. That morning, I could not pray my usual prayers. The words felt empty now. All I could say was, "Show me more of you." For days after that, the dream followed me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the light, the child, and the sense of peace that had wrapped around me. I began to realize that something had begun in me, something sacred and alive, something I could not turn away from, no matter how much I tried to resist. In the days that followed that strange dream, I found myself torn between two worlds, the one I had known all my life and the one quietly calling me through peace and light. I went about my daily routines as though nothing had changed, but inside, my thoughts were no longer steady. The words of the Quran that once brought me comfort now sounded like echoes from a faraway place. Each time I tried to recite them, I felt a wall between my lips and my heart. One afternoon, while teaching in the mosque, I suddenly stopped mid-sentence. My students looked at me in confusion, but I could not speak. It was as if my spirit refused to continue saying what my mouth had grown used to repeating. I dismissed the class early and went home, trembling. That evening, I locked myself in my room and cried, not from pain, but from something I didn't fully understand. It was a longing mixed with fear. I wanted to know the truth, but I was afraid of what it might cost me. The memory of the little girl kept returning. I began to search for her, asking the people in the area about a small Christian girl who drew in the sand. Some said they knew her, others said she and her family had moved away to another town. My heart sank. Still, I couldn't let go of what she represented, that peace, that joy, that pure faith. It was as if she had carried something from the light I saw in my dream. That night, the struggle inside me grew louder. I felt fear of losing my family, my position, my identity. But I also felt a strange courage rising within me. It was as though the same voice that spoke in the dream was whispering again, letting me know that truth would never destroy me, only set me free. I fell to my knees and cried quietly, not following any prayer I knew, just speaking from my heart. I asked the unseen voice to help me understand who he was. Then, in the quiet of that night, I felt something stir deep within. Not an emotion, but a presence. It was gentle, yet strong. It filled my small room with peace. I couldn't explain it, but I knew I was standing at a crossroad. One path led back to the life I had always known, the other into the unknown light that kept calling me. I whispered, "If you are real, guide me." That moment marked the beginning of a silent battle inside me, a war between fear and faith, between comfort and truth. I didn't yet know which one would win, but something told me that my journey had only just begun. A week later, I traveled to the next town to buy some supplies for my father. The market was filled with shouts and bargaining voices, and I tried to lose myself in the noise, hoping to silence the confusion in my mind. But as I moved through the crowded stalls, I saw something that stopped me in my tracks. A small group of foreigners stood near the edge of the market. They were giving out little booklets to anyone who would take one. I could tell by the way people avoided them that they were Christians. My heart raced. In my country, it was dangerous to even be seen taking anything from them. Yet something within me, stronger than fear, urged me to go closer. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love to have you join us. We're always excited to welcome thoughtful people like you into this growing community. As you listen to this powerful testimony of transformation, we'd love for you to be part of the conversation. Share where you're watching from and what stands out to you in this journey. Your thoughts and reflections aren't just comments. They help shape a genuine dialogue around experiences that have the power to change lives. As I hesitated, I heard a soft voice beside me. "Sir, would you like one?" I turned and saw a woman holding out a small piece of paper. Her accent was strange, but her eyes were calm and kind. I froze, unsure what to do. For a moment, it felt as if time stopped. She wasn't forcing anything on me, just offering. I took the paper quickly, hid it inside my sleeve, and walked away fast before anyone could notice. When I finally found a quiet place behind an old shop, I took out the paper. It was a small pamphlet with a picture of a shepherd carrying a lamb. The words were simple, but they pierced through me like light breaking through darkness. It spoke of a God who leaves the 99 to find the one that is lost. I read it again and again, my eyes filling with tears. For the first time, I felt that the story was not just about someone else. It was about me. I folded the paper and hid it inside my bag. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had read. I realized that the peace I had seen in the little girl's eyes was the same peace the paper spoke about, the peace of being found by a God who loves without conditions. But I was still afraid. What if this was all a trap? What if I was being deceived? As I lay awake, I remembered the dream, the voice, and the light. I knew deep down this wasn't darkness, it was truth. Yet I didn't know how to reach it. I felt like someone standing at the edge of a river, seeing the other side but not knowing how to cross. The next day, I returned to the market hoping to see the woman again, but she was gone. I asked around, but no one seemed to know anything. Some even said there had been no such group there that day. That confused me even more. Who was she? Why did she seem so familiar? Then, in a sudden flash of memory, I remembered the little girl's calm smile, and something inside me whispered that these moments were connected, part of a plan greater than I could yet understand. That night, the wind outside my window was unusually strong, and the sound of it seemed to echo in my heart. I had returned from the market weary, my mind full of questions I could not silence. I placed the small pamphlet on my table and just stared at it for a long time. It looked so simple, so harmless, yet every time my eyes met its words, something within me trembled. I tried to distract myself by reading my usual study notes, but the words felt heavy and lifeless. After a while, I turned off the lamp and lay on my mat, closing my eyes. My heart was noisy with thoughts. I kept remembering the shepherd and the lamb, the image from the little booklet. The idea of a God searching for me felt too personal, too tender, too strange. But as I lay there, somewhere between wakefulness and sleep, I began to sense something shifting in the room. It was as though the air had changed, softer, purer, alive. I opened my eyes, and my room seemed to glow with a light that did not come from any lamp. It wasn't blinding but calm and warm, filling every corner. My heart began to race, not from fear, but from awe. I felt a presence so near, so real, that my body trembled. I didn't see a face, but I felt watched over, surrounded, known. My thoughts stopped completely. Then something deep within me became still. In that stillness, he revealed to me that I was not lost by mistake. I was being found by love. I understood that this presence was the same one from my dream, the same peace I saw in the little girl, the same voice that had been calling me quietly all along. He let me know that truth was not a path of knowledge but a person of love. Tears began to fall from my eyes without warning. I felt my heart break open, not from pain, but from freedom. I knelt on the floor and whispered words that surprised even me. I said, "I want to know you." At that moment, it felt as if the weight of my years lifted. The guilt, the searching, the emptiness, all of it melted away in the warmth of that unseen light. My room returned to normal after some time, but I was not the same anymore. Something had entered me and stayed. For the first time in my life, I felt peace that didn't depend on rituals or performance. I couldn't explain it, but I knew I had met the living God. Not in a temple, not in a dream, but right there in my quiet room. After that night, I woke up before dawn with a strange calm in my heart. The usual heaviness that greeted me every morning was gone. I sat on my bed in silence, feeling as though I had stepped into a new world, though everything around me looked the same. The light from the sunrise entered my room softly, and I whispered in my heart, "Thank you," though I didn't yet fully understand to whom I was speaking. From that day, something began to grow quietly within me. My eyes started to see life differently, the faces of people, the beauty of small things, the sound of children laughing, even the pain in others. Everything seemed to have meaning. I began reading the little pamphlet again and again, and I prayed in my own words, not following any form. I would close my door, kneel quietly, and speak to the one I had encountered in the light. Each time, peace would return stronger than before. But this new peace also brought fear. I lived in a place where faith in Jesus could cost everything: family, friends, even life. So I kept my experience hidden deep inside. When my father spoke of religion, I listened respectfully, but in my heart, I had already crossed a line no one could see. I started to distance myself from debates and long religious arguments. Something inside me told me that truth doesn't need to be fought for, it only needs to be lived. A few weeks later, while walking past the Christian center where I had first seen the little girl, I saw a small group of children playing again. Among them was a young boy carrying a wooden cross around his neck. I smiled faintly, realizing how much courage it must take for a child to wear that symbol in this place. I felt a deep respect for their simple faith. It reminded me that maybe faith wasn't about knowing everything. Maybe it was about trusting even when you don't. At night, I would write down everything that happened. Every feeling, every whisper, every dream. My journal became my safe place. Sometimes, in my quiet time, I would feel a warmth inside, like an invisible hand resting on my shoulder. He would let me know that I was not forgotten, that I was being guided step by step. Even when doubts tried to return, peace always found a way to silence them. Still, I knew this secret could not stay hidden forever. Something within me was growing stronger, brighter. It was only a matter of time before the light inside me would be noticed by others. And I began to wonder, would I have the courage to stand for this truth if the time came? It did not take long before my quiet change began to draw attention. My father noticed that I no longer joined in the evening prayers as before. My friends asked why I avoided long religious discussions. I tried to hide my heart's transformation with excuses, but something in my eyes must have betrayed me. One evening, while we sat for dinner, my younger brother asked, half jokingly, if I had become too holy for the rest of us. Everyone laughed, but I felt a chill run through me. The secret I carried was no longer completely safe. Soon after, a close friend from the mosque confronted me privately. He said people were beginning to talk, that I had been seen near the Christian center more than once. His tone was half warning, half accusation. I tried to brush it off, but fear tightened in my chest. I knew what such rumors could bring. Still, deep down, I also knew I could not deny the truth of what I had experienced. That night, I walked out to the edge of town, where the fields stretched into the distance under a quiet moon. I sat on a rock and looked up at the sky. My heart was full of questions. Why would God show me something so real only to put me in danger for it? Why did peace come with such a heavy cost? As I sat there, struggling, a soft sense of understanding filled me. He let me know that truth is never without cost, but what is born of truth cannot die, no matter the trial. The next morning, I made a decision. I would no longer pretend. I began to live with quiet honesty. I still respected my family's faith, but I no longer joined in prayers that didn't feel true to me. Instead, I prayed silently to the one who had met me in the light. My father's disappointment was deep, though he never spoke it aloud. My mother wept quietly, confused by what was happening to her son. There were moments when I almost gave up, wishing I could return to the old ways just to make them happy. But peace would not let me. Weeks passed. I began to face small acts of rejection. Old friends avoided me, and my teaching position was quietly taken away. Yet even in the middle of loss, I felt stronger, as though the light inside me grew brighter with every tear I shed. I realized that truth had become my home now, and I could not go back. One night as I lay in bed, I remembered the little girl, her small hands drawing the cross, her calm eyes, her fearless smile. I realized she had planted a seed that had grown into this unshakable faith. The same peace I saw in her that day was now living inside me. I wept again, not from sorrow, but from gratitude. The cost was real, but the love I had found was greater still. As the months passed, the storm around me slowly settled. My father spoke less to me, and though the distance between us hurt deeply, I learned to pray for him instead of arguing. My mother's eyes were softer now, and I could tell she sensed that something beautiful, not evil, had changed me. Life was no longer about trying to prove what I believed. It became about living it quietly, faithfully, day by day. One morning, while visiting a small village outside the city, I saw a group of children gathered near a corner. Among them was a little girl who looked just like the one I had met long ago, the same innocent eyes, the same gentle smile. She was humming a song about love and holding a small wooden cross. My heart leapt inside me. I walked closer and greeted her kindly. She smiled, not in surprise, but as if she already knew me somehow. She told me she was there with her family to help teach children songs about love and peace. I sat nearby and listened. The songs were simple, yet full of power. Every word seemed to touch something deep in my heart. As I watched those children sing with joy, I realized I had come full circle. The same kind of innocent faith that once drew me now stood before me again, calling me to live it out in truth. That evening, I found myself sitting under a tree, watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and red. The years of searching, questioning, and losing had finally led me to something far greater than knowledge. To peace, to love, to a life that made sense. I had lost many things, but I had gained something eternal. I began to help quietly at the same Christian center where I had first met that little girl years ago. I helped translate lessons, clean the small rooms, and teach the children songs of hope. I never told them my full story, but in every smile I shared, I prayed silently that someone else's heart would be reached, just like mine once was. Through every small act of kindness, I began to see purpose again. My journey was no longer about running from fear, it was about walking in love. I understood now that faith wasn't a secret to be hidden, but a light to be lived. Now, as I look back on my journey, I see how every moment, the confusion, The fear, the loneliness, the light, and even the pain was carefully written by the hands of a loving God. What began as a scholar's search for truth ended as a son's discovery of love. I had spent years trying to reach God with my knowledge, only to realize that He had already been reaching for me through grace. The peace that once seemed impossible is now the air I breathe every day. To every believer who reads or hears my story, I want you to know this: your faith is not a decoration for peaceful days. It is the anchor that holds you when the storms rise. Do not let fear make you silent, and do not let comfort make you weak. The truth that lives in you is alive, and it is meant to be seen in love, not hidden in fear. If you are walking through trials or rejection because of your faith, remember that light shines brightest in darkness. Hold on. The same God who found me in a place of uncertainty will never abandon you. And if you ever doubt your purpose, remember my story. A scholar once lost in knowledge, found by the simple faith of a little child. It was not by argument that I came to truth, but by love. And it is by that same love that we will overcome the world.